I had a comment on one of my videos recently that said something like, I love the mountains when I get out in them, but I struggle to train or get going sometimes. I think we all feel like that sometimes. I think right now, most of us feel that more than ever. So in this video, I wanted to address and talk about that issue, this chasing motivation. In a perfect world, I would tell you to completely forget about motivation, but it doesn't work like that. It's important to be motivated, but my point here is that motivation isn't everything. Motivation will come and go, and I'm sure if you've looked into this before, you've seen military influencers who go on and on about motivation, and often the final point of guys like Goggins or Jocko is generally that discipline is something that's replaced with motivation.
Work, late nights, early morning, discipline.
But whilst I'm not a huge fan of this, I'm not really a disciple of discipline. I think there's a lot to be taken out from that world. One of my favorite quotes is from David Goggins. Goggins is an absolute machine. He says, be more than motivated, be more than driven, become literally obsessed to the point where people think you're fucking nuts. And I know that most people, when they hear that, they're just going to be like me and think, just calm down, bro. Like, that's way too intense. And if that's what you think when you hear a quote like that, then I think we're probably on the same page with that. So my first point here is that if the self-discipline route hasn't worked for you, then it's probably not going to. If you're like me, most of the exercise that you get is outside when you're hiking or climbing or enjoying your sport. And we do these things not because we're disciplined, we do things because we enjoy them. And you can take that approach and apply it to your training as well. Just do something you enjoy. I train my body not because I'm an unstoppable killing machine. I train my body simply because I enjoy training it. I didn't always enjoy working out. In fact, I kind of used to hate it. I was never into going to the gym, and I didn't fit into that crew, that crowd. I would just much prefer to be outside. And I'd be lying that I said now that I loved every second of it, but I think it's important to take this common phrase that you hear in the outdoors, which is embrace the suck. And I think if you can do that in the outdoors, you can certainly do that in your training as well. And it'll really pay off in terms of gaining that mental strength edge that we probably all need. My personal view on this is that you don't have to suffer through every workout. You don't have to finish every workout in a puddle of sweat, and you don't have to be feeling totally exhausted. You can feel invigorated from doing a training session. You can gain energy rather than spending energy if you do the right kind of workout for you. So much of this is about finding what you enjoy, finding what works for you, and that takes some exploration, it takes some effort, and it takes some guidance. You don't have to punish yourself. You can be grateful for what you have, which is hopefully a functioning human body in some way. My second piece of advice when it comes down to motivation is one I've spoken about before, and it's choosing a goal. I've got a whole video that you can watch about choosing goals, but I think the main points are that you should pick something that's just a little bit out of your reach, something that gives you a deadline and a reason to go and do it. It could be anything from a 2-mile hike on a Saturday afternoon to booking a month-long climbing trip in the Himalayas and everywhere in between. It will be different for everyone, but obviously it needs to be something just a little outside of your comfort zone. It needs to be concrete, meaning it's specific, like a specific trail, a specific event, or a trip or an agreement, something with a date attached to it. It also needs to be realistic. I hear from a lot of people who have the goal of climbing Everest, but to be brutally honest, in 90% of most cases, you're picking something that's just way too fucking hard. I know that sounds brutally honest, but it costs $120,000 in most cases to go and do that mountain. So that's a whole other ball game in itself, getting the money to do it. So just pick something a little easier. Just a little bit easier. And the reason why I say this is because if you choose something that's way too hard for you and you fail, then that could affect you for the rest of your life. So if you have set goals in the past and failed and you've become demotivated as a result of that, then I encourage you to set smaller wins before you go after something so audacious. A lot of what I watch and read online would fit into the personal growth category or the lifestyle change stuff. And the one thing that crops up a lot in these kind of courses is that they say you'll never actually change until you reach this breaking point where you become so fed up with yourself that eventually you have no choice but to change. I certainly encourage you to pay attention to your self-talk, to look yourself in the mirror legitimately and call yourself out on your bullshit, but it doesn't mean that you have to flip your life completely upside down. A journey of improving yourself doesn't have to come at the expense of your old life. Not everyone is ready for that kind of change, and not everyone needs it, frankly, to be happy. It's probably more useful to say that everyone has their own path that's going to be slightly different, and not everyone has to have this intense overhaul in order to make changes. If you choose a goal that's just outside of your reach, something that will require some small changes that you know for sure you can achieve without having some grandiose lifestyle change that has to flip your whole world upside down. And third and final point to bring this all together is to find something that you enjoy that improves you. It might be yoga, it might be rock climbing, it might be Pilates or Tai Chi or Qigong or any kind of martial art, something that gets your body moving, something that gets the blood flowing, something that's fun. But importantly, something that has a linear progression or a staircase to get you towards. Martial arts has the grading system with the belts. Rock climbing has all kinds of grading systems all over the world. They're steps to indicate to us that we're getting stronger and more powerful in our human body. You just have to find enjoyment in something that improves you and then set up a system to prompt you to do that regularly and improve on it. If you don't currently have a system and you want to borrow mine and implement it, then I would recommend checking out my website. I would start with elements, then maybe move on to Hike Strong. If you've got knee issues, there's Mountain Proof Knees, which is a brand new one that's just come out. And as always, if you have questions about which one's going to be right for you, then you can fill out the contact form on my website. That'll come straight to my inbox, and I'll give you my professional opinion on which one is best suited to you. And it's not going to be necessarily the one that's the most expensive. I'm not that much of a douche. I'll see you on the summit.